It's true, you don't see many dwarf women. And in fact, they are so alike in voice and appearance, they are often mistaken for dwarf men.
It's the beards.
This, in fact, has given rise to the belief there are no dwarven women, and dwarves just spring from holes in the ground. Hello, I'm Nerdarchy Dave from Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds, and today I'm hanging out with
Nerdarchy Ted, and today we're going to talk about dwarves, men and women, and beards.
Hey, do you want practical D&D content you can drop right in your game?
If the answer is yes, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button and attune to that notification bell so you don't miss a single video.
We wanted to talk about some D&D lore, and we're going to dwarves in this case, and we're going to talk about primarily dwarf beards.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's apparently a big thing, here on the Nerdarchy channel.
Yeah, we might be known for a penchant for liking dwarves and beards. So, fantasy dwarves, there is a long history of beards, and you have D&D. Before that, you had Tolkien, and obviously there's mythology as well. More recently, you had the Image comic, Rat Queens, and also then we can look at Warhammer Fantasy as well as Warcraft. All these are hugely popular, and they have dwarves in them.
And I mean, we have multiple editions of D&D to look at and see how the lore kind of ebbs and flows with the times.
All right, so I feel like one of the big things we kind of really want to talk about is dwarf beards and culture, right? And also, do your dwarven women have beards or no beards? That is the question. Down in the comments, let us know. How do you do it in your game? Homebrew or whatever you're playing. We've mentioned Tolkien and D&D and Warhammer Fantasy, Rat Queens, as well as, and it's mixed up between, some of them having beards for their women and some don't.
I mean, even D&D throughout the ages, they've kind of shifted back and forth. If you look at the current 5th edition Player's Handbook, it talks about how meticulous, dwarves are with their beards. In the very beginning of the game, there's even a quote from Gary Gygax that talked about, female dwarves have beards and they care about them just as much as the men.
So kind of the breakdown is, AD&D up to 3rd edition, definitely dwarves had beards. 4th edition, they kind of got rid of it. 5th edition, they're leaning in that direction, but there's a footnote that says it's a rarity that sometimes female dwarves will have beards. Yeah, and this raises a lot of really interesting questions, right? We've mentioned some other games and worlds that also have dwarves, and Warcraft as well as Warhammer Fantasy, their female dwarves do not have beards. D&D, we've already kind of covered. Tolkien, the women had beards in it. There's even a famous line from it that we were just kind of riffing on. And then there's the Image comics, Rat Queens, which I think is based off of a D&D game. Well, Violet, the female character in the comic, she actually goes against her family tradition and shaves her beard. So you can go all over the place with whether or not dwarven women have beards or not.
I guess this really comes down to why is it important? What does it say about the race? What does it say about the culture? And what does it add if you put dwarven women with beards?
First of all, it's kind of important, no matter which gender you're talking about, culturally to dwarves, right? It's a sign of prestige. It could also be a sign of wealth. It could be a sign of power, their prowess. So it really comes up time and time again. And for playing D&D and role-playing, it definitely gives you an area to delve into. It does raise some interesting questions, though, about masculinity and femininity in the D&D world when it comes to dwarves. And that's actually one of the reasons why I really like the idea of women dwarves having beards, because it really turns the idea of beauty on its head, right? It's completely different than anything else. And it lends itself more to this being a fantasy world and not being, they're just short humans, right? And from that standpoint alone, I kind of really dig it.
that comment in the player's handbook where it talks about the dwarves taking care of their hair and their beards. I mean, how often do you see, the braids and the decorations of things in it, both in men and women? It gives them something else. And as you said, it turns the whole concept of beauty, masculinity, femininity on its side, because now you have some other angle to play, some other thing to look at. And it's like, all right, well, dwarves are generally, squatter, stouter than humans. The concept of what is beautiful, what is the stereotypical attractive, is going to be different for other races. And that does give something to look at and a new mindset to play with when you're role playing another race.
I 100% agree. Also, it gets into like the intricacy that dwarves spend in their grooming of the beard, the presentation of the beard, even the protecting the beard in battle, right? So we have an article over on nerdarchy.com, Buy My Beard, Tricks and Tips for D&D Dwarf Beards. You can go check it out. It was written by Eli. He did a great job, fantastic job with it. And it really there's some items over there, and it really delves into how important the beard is to the dwarf.
So, the link is down in the description below if you want to go check it out. Highly recommended if you're interested in playing a dwarf character or anyone who really wants to rise up the concept of beard items.
Now, I recently played in Torg Eternity, which is a different role playing game. It was a ton of fun. My first character died. We were just using the pre-gens, so I just grabbed the next pre-gen, which happened to be a dwarf woman and a Turek. And I played her as having a beard because I just like the idea of dwarven women having beards. I think it's different. I think it just changes things up, like we said earlier, and creates more of a personality for dwarves. I don't think in Torg they really do have beards, but one of the thing in Torg is like they're from other worlds and they've kind of been disgraced. There's a feature that you later can take when you get enough XP and you have had certain things in the game happen that basically gives back their honor, and so that they can have like the amazing braids that they used to have, or beards that they used to have, because they kind of like stopped keeping up with that stuff because they fell into disgrace or dishonor. So that, to me, that's a cool angle. But you can take that concept into your D&D game, have it affect your character and how you role play.
I mean, that's absolutely a great point. I mean, it gives the character a story arc to play with, and regardless of what rule setting you're playing in, what campaign setting you're playing in, you can always have a conversation with your DM and say, hey, can I do this? Can I work with that? And it gives you, essentially a goal. And, for you, it gave you something that's like, hey, this is a belief. This is what I want to work towards. And, now you've got an arc to play with.
Not only that, too, like what happens in the game when you're playing a dwarf and something comes up that you need to disguise your character. So maybe you need to foul your beard or something along those lines. And the dwarf character is just like, I would rather die than do anything like that to my beard. Their beard is like an extension of their honor.
Yeah, and it could even go so much farther. I, who have actually had my beard nearly catch on fire. I've actually set my hair on fire before. Not recommended. So in the presence of magic and that kind of stuff, like we gloss over damage to clothing and damage to hair, but honestly, like, different things that happen in the game could easily affect your beard and the things that you could do to be like, oh, can I do steps to avoid that? If I think I'm going up against a wizard, can I put some kind of non-flammable grease or something in my beard? It might look dirty, but I'm not gonna have I don't want my beard burnt.
Well, it doesn't always look dirty, but special regions or beard oils to protect it. I mean, that article has different things in there to kind of protect the beard, which are really cool. So there's definitely things that you can do that will enhance the role playing.
But then, role-playing choices like you were talking about of, hey, this is the mission we have to do. It's like, look, is there a magical means of disguising myself? Because I'm not cutting my beard for nothing. I mean, that's there's just as many people who are not willing to participate in, we're not going to shave for the month of November, as there are people who are like, hey, you know what? Don't cut my beard for anything. I like it the way it is.
In the Warhammer fantasy novels, Gortrok and Felix, Gortrok is a slayer, and basically when dwarves do something to dishonor themselves, they take this oath and they become slayers. And most of them basically shave their heads except for a mohawk. They grow the mohawk and they go to seek their doom. They try and find a way to die in battle, die honorably. One of the slayers that was introduced had his beard destroyed somehow and he couldn't grow it back. And that was cause for him to become a slayer and go seek his doom because he was dishonored because, without a beard, he didn't consider himself a dwarf.
That's pretty awesome. Talking about the, not having a beard long ago, in the early stages of, the get together that became Nerdarchy. You ran a game, and I played a Dark Dwarven Psionicist. This is back in 2nd edition, and I had a Dark Dwarf who was horribly burned, and that was kind of the same kind of aspect. He was considered the beardless. So I had this character, Grevin the Beardless, and
he was a regular dwarf. It would have drove him to evil, but he was a Dugar, so it
so he was already kind of evil. But it was an amusing, fun character, and I think had I decided to play that kind of character now, where my role playing has stepped up, it would have been a much bigger thing for that character. But it was something that even in my early stages of gaming, it was a big factor of, hey, it's a dwarf without a beard. Because those things don't typically exist.
Speaking of role play and how it's been used in games, even the D&D movie, as bad as it was, made sure to include a quote in it, about dwarf women and beards.
All right, so Elwood was the dwarf in that one, and they made a comment about some other woman that was there. So the quote is, "She's too skinny, lad. You need a good dwarven woman with a beard that you can hang on to." So it's amusing. It's comical. I really think that that dwarf was there as a comedic effect, but
yeah, poor dwarves. But that being said, what do you folks think? How do you use dwarves in your games? Again, we asked the question, do your dwarf women have beards or not? Let us know down in the comments below. Hey, do you like the content you're getting here at Nerdarchy? Well, we have more of it over on our Patreon. We're putting things in our rewards every month that are eventually going to go into our store as D&D products. But you get it first over on the Nerdarchy Patreon, and you get it for less. We have other cool rewards over there as well. Do me a favor and go check out the Patreon.
After you're done doing that, feel free to stop by the comments. Let us know what you think. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.